Sandman.
The Boogeyman is a powerful and legendary tulpa that was made by people's nature to fear the unknown. A tulpa is an entity created in the mind, acting independently of, and parallel to mortal consciousness. Originally born as an imaginary being used by adults to scare children into behaving. The Boogeyman has no specific appearance, and conception of it can vary drastically from household to household within the same community. It is a formless being that can take any shape the storyteller wishes, though he tends to be a grotesque humanoid with a tendency to hide under beds, in closets and other dark places. The Boogeyman, the leader of the nightmare-inducing entities known as the Dream Devils, which I, the Sandman, oppose, and the Dream Spirits, dream-inducing entities. In many cases, he has no set appearance in the minds of adults or children, but is simply a non-existing embodiment of terror. Some parents will tell their children that if they misbehave, then the Boogeyman will get them. His punishments are said to vary from mischievous pranks such as pulling hair, biting toes, or shaking beds, akin to a poltergeist, or more malevolent behavior such as manifesting as horrible creatures to scare the child, or even going as far as kidnapping the child and taking them away to his shadowy realm to an undisclosed fate, though he is often said to eat them. This creature varies from person to person, as it has no definite appearance and is simply the embodiment of terror. Although usually depicted as a masculine entity, it can be female or genderless. While the description of the Boogeyman differs on a cultural level, there are often some shared similarities to the creatures. The Boogeyman is depicted as having claws, talons, and sharp teeth. Along with that, the Boogeyman is of the spirit variety, while the minority are demons, witches, and other legendary creatures. Some are even described to have certain animal features such as horns, hooves, and bug-like appearances. One of the Boogeyman's appearances is a tall, lithe, and dark humanoid entity. He has silver golden yellow eyes resembling an eclipse, dull pale gray skin, and glossy black hair that is styled to come out as slick, sharp spikes from the back of his head. He wears a long, black robe with a V-neck line and shadows running down his arms, obscuring his body like a shadow. Another appearance is that of a round puppet, with stumpy legs and fingerless arms, covered from head to toe in a brown-gray or neon-green burlap sack, depending on the lighting, and obvious seams are visible along the sides. The eyes on its face are featureless black holes, as is the inside of his mouth. The tip of his head extends outward and flops down, vaguely resembling a Santa hat. On the inside of the sack, the Boogeyman is a huge mass of a variety of different colored bugs and snakes. Another appearance is that of an unnaturally tall and improbably thin humanoid entity that few could ever mistake for a human being, even at a distance. He strides across the ground on stilt-like legs, reaching out towards his victims with long, spindly arms. His right arm is missing all but one of its fingers, leaving it little more than a nail-tipped tentacle. His neck is so swollen with goiters that he appears almost chinless, his bloated throat dominating most of his lower jaw. His face, though still somewhat humanoid, is frozen in a deranged grin, his mouth remaining perpetually open in a ghastly parody of a smile, where his already hideous teeth are so large that they appear to be forcing the Boogeyman's jaws apart, leaving him with the needle-fanged grimace of a deep-sea anglerfish. The Boogeyman is dressed in the tattered costume of a ringmaster, complete with a stitched-up top hat, a ragged long coat, a pinstriped shirt and trousers, and a theatrical staff. When looking at the personality traits of the Boogeyman, they are most easily divided into three categories: the kind that punishes misbehaved children, the kind that are more prone to violence, and the kind that protect the innocent. They all relate in the same way, being that they all exist to teach young children lessons. The large majority of Boogeyman are there to just frighten children with punishments, and not actually inflict much damage. The more vicious Boogeyman is said to steal the children at night, and even eat them. The last category is the Boogeyman who protect people and only punish those guilty, regardless of age. The Boogeyman is everything a person fears, and it thrives on the fear of others, taking a cruel delight in turning their pleasant dreams into nightmares. Being a master manipulator, the Boogeyman often preyed on its victims psychologically. Its knowledge of people's worst fears allowed it to unnerve its enemies and enjoyed watching them squirm, often leaving their fates to their imagination through thinly veiled threats before finishing them off. The boogeyman has a perverse level of pleasure from playfully tormenting with its victims in an almost animal-like fashion. The boogeyman is a voraciously creature who believes that Halloween shouldn't be a fun holiday like everyone else does. He thinks it should be sinister and harmful. The boogeyman has a malicious fondness in creating puppets to continue what he does best, creating fear on anyone he could find. While he has many puppets, two of his favorites are Cosmodus Pitchener, a hero of another world pushed to despair and insanity after the loss of his family, and Nathaniel Winter, an anxiety-filled man who desired to live a life without fear and doubt. He has strong regard for horror writers, and they recognize him as an iconic horror figure, especially Stephen King, who once wrote a compelling short story with him as the subject. Howard Lovecraft is also a notable devotee, as the being embodies the vagueness that fuels most of his stories. The boogeyman, in return, keeps a number of Lovecraft stories in his collection. The boogeyman is one of the strongest tulpas to ever exist, personifying the fear of the dark, of the strange, of the unknown. He has many interesting powers and abilities that somewhat vary with his different moods and appearances. However, few, if any, see the boogeyman up close. Most of the time, he prefers to toy with his victims from a distance with illusions and nightmares, only attacking a target head-on if he has no other choice. Because of such a global impact, it makes it difficult to find the original source of the legends. The first reference to the boogeyman would be considered the hobgoblins described in England, in the 1500s. Many believe that they were made to torment humans, and while some only played simple pranks, others were more foul in nature. Boogeyman-like beings are almost universal, common to the folklore of many countries. All of these have a similar concept, a mysterious being who punishes kids for being naughty. Boogeyman may target a specific mischief such as one that punishes children who suck their thumbs or misbehavior in general. In some cases the boogeyman is a nickname for the devil. The boogeyman is related to many similar entities, who, together, form an entire villain type in themselves. However, he is definitely the most infamous of them all and is especially prominent in Western cultures. Even to this day some people will use the boogeyman to scare children into good behavior, though it is becoming less popular due to negative effects it can bring to some children. The boogeyman may be called Boogeyman or Boogermonster in rural areas of the American South, booger being the American English equivalent of the British English bogey, and was most often used to keep young children from playing outside past dark, or wandering off in the forest. During the Corn Festival, young Cherokee males wearing caricature masks would make fun of politicians, frighten children into being good, and shake their masks at young women and chase them around. Male participants in this booger dance were referred to as the booger men. In some Midwestern states, the boogeyman scratches at the window. In eastern Iowa he is called the corn stalker. In the Pacific Northwest, he may manifest in green fog. In other places he hides or appears from under the bed or in the closet and tickles children when they go to sleep at night, while in others he is a tall figure in a black hooded cloak who puts children in a sack. It is said that a wart can be transmitted to someone by the boogeyman. The boogeyman is the greatest and most terrifying creature born in the minds of men. He is not just the embodiment and personification of true horror and fear, he is fear itself, darkness and nightmare, to hide in the darkest places of our minds and our dreams.